All right, we have some big breaking news out of the WNBA, where Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark is going to be sidelined for at least 2 weeks.
Black footage has emerged, proving how Caitlin Clark got hurt this 2025 season. Guys,
the recently released video explains why Caitlin Clark is officially placed on the injured reserve list. We're discussing intentional contact, systematic targeting, and referees ignoring what can only be called organized assault. The WNBA's treatment of its biggest star is soon to be exposed by the devastating evidence. What should happen, in your opinion, to the players and referees who permitted this targeting to go unchecked?
Scenes. So pretty much the only information that we have so far about the injury itself is from Chloe Peterson. And she said Caitlin Clark's left quad strain is a new injury, I'm told. It is not related to her left quad.
Let's get one thing straight. The quad injury that has kept Caitlin Clark out of action is not the result of a freak event or normal wear and tear. This is the unavoidable outcome of over 2 years of unrestrained aggression, which the WNBA has not only disregarded but also appeared to promote by failing to safeguard their most important player. To be honest, it's uncomfortable to see the tape we're going to dissect. We're witnessing a behavioral pattern that extends far beyond basketball competition. The league's silence has been deafening, and this is targeted abuse masquerading as defense.
I don't know when it happened. I know afterwards, we got a message that she had something going on with her leg, and they were getting an MRI, and then we got the alert yesterday.
Was it after the Liberty game on Saturday?
Was that her last game?
Yeah.
Yes.
The most incriminating proof comes from the latest Atlanta Dream showdown, the game where everything went wrong. There was something far darker going on the court while everyone was preoccupied with the animosity of the fans and the "you're in Atlanta" opportunity. A frame-by-frame examination shows a concerted attempt to physically overpower Clark that defies any plausible basketball classification. Pay close attention to the video. Pay close attention. During transition plays, you'll witness hands snatching jerseys, needless contact on screens, and what are essentially wrestling maneuvers masquerading as basketball defense. The Dream players had no intention of stealing the ball. Through repeated contact, they were attempting to deteriorate Clark's body. The defensive strategy used by Ryan Howard was especially heinous, making contact on almost every possession, providing continuous pressure during inbound plays, and standing awkwardly close for free throws. This defense isn't very good. The goal of this methodical harassment is to physically exhaust and irritate an opponent. This is where things start to become very interesting, though this whole matter is further complicated by Brittany Gurrier's involvement. We're discussing a player who has a considerable edge in strength and size, making needless physical contact with someone who is perhaps 40 pounds heavier than her. In the video, Gurrier is shown utilizing her body to make contact when it would be against basketball basics to back off. No one discussed the coaching response. This is something that went entirely unnoticed. It wasn't a calculated move on Stephanie White's part to remove Clark from ball handling responsibilities. It's becoming abundantly evident from the time frame that White was aware of Clark's physical problems well before the formal injury report. Consider it rationally. Your franchise player's role is not abruptly altered. Unless there's a significant problem, you're your main playmaker and top scorer. White witnessed what we are all currently witnessing in slow motion. The authorities were not offering any protection, and her top player was being singled out on a regular basis. Now, the criticism White faced for those coaching choices seems utterly absurd. While the league watched as their golden goose was defeated possession after possession, she was working to protect Clark's health. By reducing Clark's ball handling responsibilities, White most likely prevented an even more serious injury. Although White blamed Clark's injury on the New York Liberty game during that pivotal period, the evidence clearly indicates that this was just the point at which a player who was already impaired reached her breaking point. Prior to the injury, Clark's shooting percentage had been dropping over a number of games, which made perfect sense given the cumulative physical toll. Professional players don't abruptly lose their shooting ability for no apparent reason. It wasn't bad practice habits or mental errors that caused Clark's mechanics to be off. Her body was disintegrating due to prolonged touch, something officials ought to have seen weeks earlier. Since the Liberty game was the most recent, it was used as the scapegoat, but anyone watching could see that Clark's movement patterns changed throughout several games. She was definitely coping with discomfort, shielding herself, and changing how she approached touch, all of which had an impact on her performance. The officials are a total failure. Let's deal with the big issue. This targeting has been made possible by the referee's complete complicity. We are not discussing having different strike zones or missing a few close calls. The player who was obviously being picked out for excessive physical contact was not adequately protected on a systematic basis. Foul after uncalled foul can be seen in the video. In men's basketball or even other women's games, grabs, holds, pushes, and needless contact would have been flagged right away. However, the bureaucrats abruptly became selectively blind when it came to Clark. Superstar calls or special treatment are not the issue here. This is about preserving the integrity of the game and fundamental player safety. Officials are effectively providing other teams with a template for neutralizing talent through intimidation rather than skill when they permit one player to be continuously targeted without repercussions. The fact that this circumstance fits within a larger pattern of treatment that Clark has experienced since joining the league is what makes it even more unsettling. Do you recall the Kennedy Carter incident from the previous season? The blatant fouls that were somehow accepted as typical basketball plays. The frequent physical contact that, for whatever reason, never led to technical fouls for unsportsmanlike behavior. These are not isolated cases. Clark is being physically intimidated out of her natural game by a number of teams and individuals working together. Diane reaction. The league has just shrugged their shoulders and said, "Welcome to professional basketball," or "This is just playoff energy." But let's be honest about what we're witnessing. While contact is a part of professional basketball, the level of persistent targeting that we have witnessed is not. NBA players are subject to physical defense, but when such defense verges on violence, officials shield them. Professional athletes are trained to play despite discomfort and contact, but the systematic targeting that Clark has seen differs from typical game contact. Her body language in recent games suggested she was protecting herself rather than playing aggressively, which explains the drop in performance that had some supporters doubting her talents. The irony is that Clark's critics used her falling performance to argue that she was overrated, when in fact her declining performance demonstrated that the targeting strategy was functioning exactly as intended. Teams discovered a means to nullify her talent, not via greater basketball abilities, but through persistent physical intimidation, which referees refused to handle. The league's duplicity was exposed. The WNBA spent significant work marketing itself on Clark's star power and drawing ability, but when it came time to defend their investment, they absolutely failed. A player cannot be the focal point of your marketing campaign and then consistently targeted without repercussions. This reveals a basic hypocrisy in the league's operations. They want the advantages of having a transcendent talent like Clark, such as ticket sales, media attention, and higher viewership, but they are unwilling to take the tough choices required to keep that talent safe from people who would prefer to kill her by intimidation than to compete with her basketball prowess. It has been especially devastating that the league has remained silent about this targeting. There are no remarks regarding player safety, no admissions of missed calls, and no signs that they are even conscious of the issue. In essence, they ignored the conditions that led to Clark's accident and responded to it by saying that injuries happen. Whether they acknowledge it or not, Clark's injury marks a turning point for the WNBA. Their most marketable talent, their biggest draw, their major vehicle for media attention is sidelined because they failed to safeguard her from systematic targeting. With Clark off the court, they can now see what their product looks like. The league will be solely responsible for the impending major decline in attendance figures, broadcast ratings, and social media participation. Additionally, this injury creates a risky precedent for other gifted athletes who want to join the league. What message does the WNBA send to college students thinking about their professional possibilities if they refuse to shield their biggest star from blatant targeting? Why put yourself in a league where skill can be nullified by intimidation? The fan reaction to Clark's targeting has been very illuminating, rather than competitiveness or the fans' participation in this catastrophe. Many fans have applauded the hard play as defense or making Clark earn her points rather than pointing out blatant fouls and calling for improved refereeing. In essence, this way of thinking has allowed teams to keep targeting. Social media campaigns have been inundated with opinions about Clark needing to strengthen herself or adjust to physical play, totally ignoring the fact that her struggles go far beyond typical physical basketball. BY refusing to realize what is truly taking place on the court, these fans have become participants in the targeting. The most annoying aspect is witnessing fans moan about the game's lack of star power and marketability while defending blatant fouls as sound defense. It is not possible to have it both ways. Either you want gifted athletes to show off their abilities, or you want persistent physical abuse to scare such players into mediocrity. Nobody is talking about the financial implications. This is what the WNBA refuses to admit. They will have to pay a lot of money because of Clark's injuries. Indiana Fever game ticket sales are on the verge of collapsing. Games without Clark will have much lower television ratings. When their biggest celebrity is sidelined, merchandise sales, social media engagement, and mainstream media coverage all suffer. By failing to offer basic protection, the league has effectively allowed their most precious asset to be harmed. From a business standpoint, this is the pinnacle of organizational malpractice. Maintaining ties with players and coaches who participate in targeting has taken precedence over safeguarding their major source of income. The fundamental challenge that the WNBA is currently facing and the true question going ahead is straightforward. Are they interested in becoming a real professional basketball league? Or do they want to carry on as some sort of physical intimidation competition in which skill is nullified by assault rather than great basketball skills? This question is compelled by Clark's injury, which highlights every flaw in the league's operations. The promotion of intimidation above basketball talent, the failure to safeguard elite players, the targeting, and the missed calls. When your biggest star is placed on the injured reserve list due to officials' refusal to perform their duties, everything becomes clear. Whether the league has any credibility going forward will depend on how they handle this. They will no longer be able to claim to be a legitimate professional sports organization if they keep acting like systematic targeting is standard basketball. They may be able to regain some credibility if they eventually admit the issue and take action to resolve it. But don't expect any significant changes based on their response thus far. Instead of acknowledging that they have a significant problem with officiating and player conduct, the WNBA appears to be quite satisfied, allowing their most recognizable athlete to be targeted out of the league. There is no denying the evidence. The WNBA's inability to safeguard its best player highlights all of the league's flaws, and Caitlin Clark's injury was avoidable. This organization's legitimacy will be determined by what transpires next. If you're sick of seeing talent crushed by methodical targeting, hit the like button.